And we are here for another week of NFL Chat Touchdown. Again, coming at you from Schwadorf in Austria. I'm your host, Joel Turpin, and with me we've got both co-hosts this week, David Asselin and Martin Marhold. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about the games that were featured on television this last week. And we'll start off with the Sunday game between Chicago and Washington, which was a real barn burner.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
With some big scores and some surprising heroes.
Yeah, it was very interesting to watch. I think we had 4 lead changes, and I think it was tied in between like 15 times. At least it felt like. The last lead change coming only with 40 seconds left in the game, I think. And Roy Halou with his third touchdown obviously won the game.
I've never really heard of this guy before this week. He sort of just kind of popped up. I've never really heard much of this. He's a rookie running back, correct?
No, he was around. He was around definitely last season, and they thought back when they didn't know who was going to be their back.
But he didn't play much last week.
But no, he didn't. He doesn't play much.
He showed up. He showed up this week. But
yeah.
I've never really heard of the guy before. And to be quite honest with you, I couldn't say much about him before I watched this game this past week.
I don't think we're seeing a change though in the Washington backfield situation from Shanahan's comments. It was more of a Morris got us down the field and then he was tired and we brought in a fresh back to get the touchdown. It just kind of happened that way. It wasn't
sort of
a sea change.
Okay.
So
in fantasy leagues, some people get crazy about him, and everybody is trying to pick him up because they think he's going to be the goal line back from now on. But it actually, for me, it doesn't seem like. I think this is going to be not a one-hit wonder maybe, but I don't think he's going to do 3 touchdowns again anytime soon.
No, probably.
Well, there was one good Jordan Reed. Rookie tight end for the Redskins, caught 9 passes or so. Or what did he catch?
Yeah,
9 passes for 134 yards.
I think they kept Fred Davis on the inactive list this week. They didn't even want him on the field, so he's definitely stepping up.
Okay, I didn't even hear of Jordan Reed actually before this day. Maybe that's probably the Skins' secret. They should play no-name players, and that way they win. When they start playing their stars and things like that, that's when they start losing.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, but you still have to think about Cutler left the game early in the second quarter. So
injury-prone Cutler.
Yeah. McCown, his backup, actually did a good job, but I don't know what it would have gone like if Cutler would have stayed in the game. So and it was very, very close, so he could have made the difference.
He could have, and unfortunately another. This was just an ugly week for injuries, and this was one of the biggest.
On a good note, we saw an old Matt Forte. The old school Matt Forte was back.
Yeah.
He was having a good week. I think he ran for 3 touchdowns or so and 100+ yards, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds about right. Okay, we will now talk a little bit about the sole remaining undefeated team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs.
And who would have thought?
Who would have thought? And how they, well, not exactly dominated, but ultimately beat the Houston Texans team that was featuring a rookie quarterback, yes, and having a whole new look, but still having some of the same problems when it came down to the end.
Yeah, also there we had an injury that probably ruined the game for them, is when Arian Foster left the game quite early. But what I will remember most from this game is the hilarious fake to nobody touchdown by Alex Smith. This was, I think, I'm not quite sure, but I think I could see at least 3 defenders' faces that were going like, what the hell is happening here?
It was a great play. I really liked watching that.
Actually, I think it was really a broken play, but they made the best of it, and that's how you win games, when you can make something out of nothing.
Not to take anything away from the Chiefs, but I thought they did not play their best game, especially with a beaten up Houston Texas team. I thought the Chiefs would run away with it playing at home, but they didn't play as good as I thought they would. I thought it would be a blowout, naturally, playing at home in Arrowhead. But the Chiefs didn't play as good as I thought they would, especially when you're playing a Houston team that's just banged up on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think that Houston was a little desperate, and really they showed up and played really well, too.
They played some decent defense, yes.
They played some decent defense, and Kansas City really, they obviously did just enough to win, but...
Martin had an interesting fact about Kansas City during the break earlier. Were you mentioning that? Kansas City and the Broncos. I thought that was an interesting
Yeah,
fact.
that was quite interesting. Actually, a friend of mine on the 49ers fan board found it out that when you compare the teams that Denver and the Chiefs both have played until now, this 5 games, and the margin of victory is only 7 points bigger for Denver. So it feels like that they're running away with every game in the Broncos.
Yeah.
But actually, they also allow a lot of points, and that's why actually it's pretty close between the two of
Or
them.
Kansas City's playing that well at the moment. You can look at it on both sides.
Yeah, they got a great defense. They got a
Yeah.
really good
Andy Reid.
defense. They got
Andy
very good
Reid's in the
special
house.
teams, and they remind me a lot actually of the 2011 49ers, who also won a lot with their special teams that year.
And Alex Smith.
Yeah, one more thing I'd like to say about the Chiefs is like everybody now has them on top of their power rankings, which is kind of a big feat if you're number 1 in the draft in April and number 1 in the power rankings in late October. That's kind of feat, but in my opinion, actually they shouldn't be there. I think they're a really good team. They will win some more games. They will go to the playoffs, I think. But for me, they're still not the strongest team in the NFL currently. I think if they
Probably
played the Saints, for example, on neutral ground,
Who are beatable. We learned that last week in New England.
Sure.
yeah. So I
Or
think
Seattle.
they shouldn't be on top, but it's certainly a top 5 team, which is still a great achievement.
It's only halfway through the season.
Yeah, well, luckily the power rankings don't actually mean anything in the NFL, unlike college football, so we don't have to worry about it too much.
That's true.
Okay, the last game that we're going to talk about really this week is another pretty exciting one. Indianapolis 39, Denver 33, as Peyton Manning's Broncos finally go down in flames.
You saw that. You saw at the beginning of the game. Any of you who actually watched this game? How nervous Peyton Manning was. He seemed just like he was happy to be there. He was glad to be back in Indianapolis, and the fans really appreciated him showing up for the game. But he was as nervous. He was throwing dead ducks. What do you call these? What do you call
Lame
them?
ducks.
Lame ducks
Yeah.
all day long. He couldn't throw. If you look at it, he did not throw a perfect spiral. And they got to Peyton Manning last week. And it's like if you can get to these pocket quarterbacks and put a little pressure on them, then they start getting a little nervous. And Peyton just was not the Peyton Manning we've seen in the first 7 weeks.
He was very
the NFL.
defensive about that too afterwards after
Yeah,
the
I
game. He
didn't
was
like
saying,
the
"Well, I
interview.
threw a lot of I threw a lot of wobbly passes for touchdowns too." So
Yeah, but actually, probably most is that Denver had a lot of uncommon mistakes for them. Not only Peyton Manning not throwing the ball like we're used to, but also they had a punt return fumble in I think it was in the first quarter, which actually led to a touchdown. Then again, we had a sack plus a fumble for a safety. Then after the safety kick, another touchdown for the Colts. They had in the third quarter they had a touchdown which resulted basically from 2 15-yard penalties from Denver.
Penalties were the name of the game last week. A lot of them.
I think it's not very typical of the Broncos. We all know they're not the perfect team on defense. They allow a lot of points, but usually they can just force more points than they allow, so they win the game this way. But usually don't make any stupid mistakes, really stupid ones. And in this case they did, and just the Colts did take advantage of it. And
I think you can leave with this game knowing that Andrew Luck sort of got this monkey off his back. Peyton comes into his house now, and this is good for the Colts organization. They can say, okay, now it's the next generation, it's the next leadership. And I think this was a very, very good, very big game for the Colts and Andrew Luck. And I think
agreed.
I think it just made a point out there that the rest of the NFL teams that the Colts may be for real come towards the end of the season.
Yeah, there's one thing that as a
They will
result
have to
of
go
this
through
game,
Denver and New
Reggie
England,
Wayne is
naturally.
out for the season,
Yes.
so he Luck just won an important game for him personally, and also for the hunt in the NFC, in the AFC. But losing Reggie Wayne, your number one receiver, is. I'm curious to see how much it will hurt them.
I see
It's
them. Chances are these two teams will probably meet again later in the playoffs.
it's quite likely. And another important point there is
This time it'll be in Denver. Probably.
Maybe, but this game now helps give them a leg up towards getting a home field game against Denver because
they only play once.
They have the head-to-head, that'll be a tiebreaker, assuming they both win the divisions, which, of course, isn't a guarantee at this point.
Exactly, yes.
It's not guaranteed, but at least I think the Colts are running away with it.
Yeah, the Colts will probably...
I can't see any other AFC South team being in a battle for it even.
Agreed. Okay, we'll take a little break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about the upcoming games for Week 7. You don't need We are back and ready to talk about the upcoming games this week. We've got some exciting ones as usual, with the first being Dallas at Detroit. Martin?
Yeah, Dallas is on the run currently. I think they just swept their division. Got a win on the road in Philly. Week before the one versus Washington. They're going to Detroit. It's not December yet, so Detroit will win it.
Yes, I also think that Dallas has looked much better, but now, of course, they have to play a team that's not in the NFC East. So I'm going to go with Detroit.
Strappett is injured, correct? If I'm not mistaken, or wasn't he gimping around?
He might have been gimping a little during the game, but he's not on any injury reports right now that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I see Detroit winning this one at home.
You see Detroit winning it?
I do.
I'm going to have to side with Martin and go with Dallas on this one. They seem to be on a roll.
I didn't go with Dallas. I just
went
made
with
it
Detroit?
sound like I would be going with Dallas. But I was going with the whole.
Well, it's pretty loud in the Silverdome. It gets pretty loud, but I think Dallas. I think Dallas is on a roll. I think Dallas is going to have to prove something in the NFC East.
Okay. Next, Cleveland at Kansas City. The Chiefs trying to stay undefeated, 8-0.
Well, I see the Chiefs staying undefeated at 8-0, although the Browns have showed promise on defense. The offense has picked it up a little bit, but they're going to play in Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, then it's Kansas City Chiefs all the way.
I think the Chiefs have a very good chance to at least get even with their all-time record in franchise history of starting 9-0. They're at 7-0 now, so obviously they need 2 more wins, and I think they're going to do it.
Chiefs already had a bye.
The Browns are actually playing better than I would have been expecting them to be currently, but I still don't see them having a chance in Kansas City to beat the Chiefs.
No.
It wouldn't surprise me at all to see this be yet another game that ends up being a lot closer than it should. I do think the Chiefs are showing this year that they will play to the competition a little bit. However, I definitely
their performance
think that
last week against the Texans was a little disappointing.
As an example, yes. Mm-hmm. I also think that they will find a way to win this one and move to 8-0 again, with the possibility of going into the bye at 9-0 and then coming back and playing Denver 2 out of 3 weeks. So really, being 9-0 is not a bad idea because it's going to get really tough for the Chiefs really quickly.
The second half of the season is going to start getting nasty everywhere.
The next game on the slate, which we're going to discuss, is Miami at New England.
I will take over this. Thank you very much. I see the Patriots winning this game. They lost a tough one last week. Gronk had actually a very decent game last week. You can see he was a little nervous. He made a couple drops and things like that. Had this really silly, stupid penalty last week. It's a new NFL rule where he's like doing his like body. No, that was it.
Okay.
That was another one. That was the worst of the two. Where he's doing like this, like how a point guard or a power forward would block out the point guard going around shooting for a basket. It's one of these blocking out the. And it's one of these new NFL rules, which none of the players are really kind of can understand this, and it was one of those simple mistakes. You make it one time, you don't do it for the rest of the year, but it ended up costing them some yards and then eventually the game. And you can see Brady's a little bit more happier now that he's got a receiver playing, and I see it being a close game. Miami's not a walkover, but I see the Patriots coming out on all 8 cylinders and just fired up. And they need to win this game, especially against a division rival.
Yeah, I think both teams have to prove something because also Miami had a devastating loss at home versus Buffalo. Which nobody would have expected before, but still the Patriots have to prove more, and they're really the favorite for me here. I think they're gonna take this easily. Actually,
Easily.
I don't think it's going to be a close game.
No, I don't think it.
I agree. After last week, given that they maybe played down to the competition a little bit, lost to a Jets team that most people assumed they
But
would
the
beat.
Jets showed pressure on Brady all day long. And going back to Elway.
And they're at home, and Miami has been coming back to earth. They may be taking the Gotcha Award from that Arizona set us up with last year, winning 3 or 4 at the start and then dropping a bunch in a row. We'll see. I think the Patriots are in this one going away. Buffalo at New Orleans, another game that might not be that close.
I fully agree. I think New Orleans. You know, I always I always like talking about teams coming off their bye week, having had additional time to prepare for the next week. So I think they're gonna walk away with this very easily. I don't see Buffalo having any chance in New Orleans to get even closer. I think it's gonna be decided like at halftime.
Buffalo played played a tough game, and they won against Miami in Miami last week, but they're not going to go to New Orleans and win.
No, New Orleans is going to kill them. The Giants at Philadelphia, another chance for the NFC East to pick up a win. What do you guys think?
Well, it's a tough one to call. I see Philadelphia winning it only because they're at home, but it's something about the Giants. They're in it. They always seem to be in it. They just seem to be losing it. Eli Manning is not having I think he's got the most interceptions in the season, or the most by a quarterback right now. He has no offensive line, but then again, the Philadelphia, sometimes they don't show up for the game either. But I see Philadelphia winning this one at home.
Yeah, I agree actually here. Eli seems to have lost all the magic that he had with his receivers last year. There's so many miscommunications and missed routes, actually you don't know if the pass was going the wrong way.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Was run the wrong way, but there seems to be a lot of miscommunication, and I don't see anybody in the Giants organization being able to find out how to pull themselves out of this slump that they are in.
On a quick note on that, the Giants kind of remind me of the Vikings. You've got players that are playing in the NFL, so you know the quality football players. It might be the coaching staffs, not necessarily the players themselves.
It might be. I also, though, think that Philadelphia will find a way to pull it out at home, although I can't bring myself to be real excited one way or the other on that one, I'll admit. San Francisco at Jacksonville. Can we knock this one out real quick? 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. San Francisco. Okay. The Jets at Cincinnati.
Woo.
Yeah, I do think that Cincinnati are at least a top 10 team, even if not even a top 5 team. They're getting better throughout the season, I think. The Jets pulling up a surprise win last week. Fine, not gonna do it again this week. I think this is gonna go Bengals' way.
Yeah, I think the fact that they surprised New England last week and pulled out the win almost takes away any chance that Cincinnati's going to look past them. In some ways, that probably helps them out and
the
ensures
Jets,
they grab a win.
The Jets secondary looked good last week. They kept their pace. They had the rest of the defense was so la. They did put a little pressure on Brady. But their secondary covered the receivers quite well last week, and if they can do this with Cincinnati, I think it's probably going to be a closer game than we think.
I agree that I think it'll probably be close. They find a way to keep it close, which is, again, a mark of a pretty solid coaching staff. Yes. But Cincinnati at home, as long as Andy Dalton continues to find his receivers occasionally, then I think it'll definitely be the Bengals' game to win.
I think the Jets secondary didn't have a tough job to look good against very inexperienced receiving core. I mean, yeah, you had Gronk back. Yeah, obviously had a good game, but if you can concentrate on one guy, because you know that he's the one
they double team
he's gonna go for, you double team him, and you actually just look better immediately just by doing this.
Yes.
So that's not a tough call for a coach.
Pittsburgh at Oakland. The Steelers. Martin?
Yeah, are the Steelers gonna pull up 3 in a row? No, I don't think so. I actually like the Raiders here. I like the whole AFC West, actually. They're a pretty good division where everybody expected it from Broncos. Not so many expected it from the Chiefs. Nobody expected it from the Raiders. And also the Chargers are playing much better than anybody expected. So them being 2-4 is can also be attributed somehow to having to play in this division.
So they're probably the toughest division right now at the moment.
It is.
They have the most wins by far.
Yes.
Also, if you just take away the wins that they're only within the division, they are by far the best. Oakland had a bye week, so they had more time to prepare, and that's why they're gonna win it.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that one, Martin. I think Oakland, this is I know it's probably too early to say, but this is a must-win for Oakland because they have to keep pace with the rest of the teams in this division. And Oakland looks good. Very surprising team, like you mentioned. Quarterback seems to be
Terrell Pryor,
seems to be finding his groove. They got a nice, established, balanced running game and passing game. Defense is right up there in the NFL, and it's typical Raiders football.
Yeah, typical Raiders football in the fact that they're 2-4.
Yes.
I think a bye weekend for the Raiders means that they've had a week to plan themselves out of the game. They're gonna find a way to lose. Commitment to losing it at the last moment.
Do you think
They're gonna
so?
give the game to Pittsburgh
You think
in
so?
some sort of wrapped up gift way at the end.
We should put
that's
some money on
wishful
that.
thinking, I guess.
It's wishful thinking, but
In the same division as
if
the
you
Chiefs.
bet
Gotcha.
if you
Okay.
bet that way on a regular basis, you're gonna win more money than you lose. Washington at Denver. What do you think there, Dave? Peyton gonna do it?
Peyton's going to do it. Of course he is. He's licking his wounds from a tough loss in Indianapolis to one of his young proteges. Washington just doesn't seem to be playing good football right now. Playing good one week, not even showing up the next week. And you're playing in Mile High.
Yeah, I do think that Washington will stand some kind of chance there. They somehow started their the read option offense again. And actually, they're not the only ones. Also, the Seahawks and the 49ers played a lot more of the read option than we have seen most of the games through the season now. But still, Denver is too good to be beaten at home by a team in Washington that seems to be picking up some speed there, but I don't see them being good enough to win Denver.
It's the AFC West versus the NFC East, and this season that means a W in the win column for Denver.
Can't argue there.
Atlanta at Arizona.
I think this is an interesting game, and I'm going to pick Arizona. I just don't see Atlanta's not playing good football. They're not. Jones is out for the season. Your guy from Kansas City.
Roddy White's hurt and
Roddy
has
White's
been.
out,
Steven Jackson's been
Yes,
hurt.
it's just very injured.
Well,
Matty
okay,
Ice is
that.
not the Matty Ice
Yeah.
we've seen in previous seasons. And Arizona playing at home, and if it's a hot one, I see maybe Arizona pulling up the upset. I do. And Atlanta's just not the team that we thought they were at the beginning of the season. And naturally, injuries and tough losses as well.
Obviously.
Arizona already has the advantage in the record because they are 3-4 while Atlanta is only 2-4. And that also being, in my eyes, the tougher division, actually. But for me, I really think that Atlanta will, at some point in time, pick up some speed, be better throughout the rest of the games, and Arizona seems to be the perfect opponent to start doing it. And that's why I'm going to go with, I don't even know if it's an upset there, but
I don't either. It's hard to say. It's hard to say at
it's
this
very
point.
hard to say, but I think Atlanta will find a way to win this.
I'm going to give
Looks like-
Atlanta one more week to prove themselves to me before I start picking against them on a regular basis. This may be the last time I give them the benefit of the doubt.
Going with
and-
Arizona all by myself. There.
all by yourself. Exactly. Okay. Then we have Green Bay in Minnesota, a great rivalry game. Dave, what do you think about this?
Boy, we'll make this one quick, right? Green Bay, Minnesota. We've talked about this the last few weeks. It's weekend after. Well, Minnesota won one game, and that wasn't even in Minnesota.
Yeah.
They were playing in London.
Well, they were probably lucky to go ahead and get that win out of the way when they did, because it's now looking like they're less and less likely to get win number 2.
And Green Bay needs to start showing something because everyone's talking about the Colts, they're talking about the Broncos, they're even talking about the Patriots or the Saints, but have not heard a lot about the Packers, and the Packers are still in there. Nobody's even talking about the Packers making it into the Super Bowl, and they have Aaron Rodgers, and they have a very talented offense.
Yeah, they're also hurt by injuries, especially on the receiving course a lot.
Yeah.
But
Jordy Nelson,
still,
I think, is-
Minnesota, they had Ponder under the helm.
God, they went with
Then
Freeman last week. What was
Then
up with
they
that?
brought up Castle.
Castle.
Then they benched Castle in favor of Freeman, who
Threw for
did
what did
not
he throw, like
exactly play a
70
great
passes or
game.
something last week, or something incredible.
yeah, and I
It
think
was
about 10 of them were complete.
Yes.
Freeman now apparently has concussion issues.
Yes, now
Yeah.
Ponder's back. I don't see anything they can do to win this game other than probably hand Adrian Peterson the ball, which
If
they
you
seem
allow him to-
reluctant to do because they handed him the ball 13 times last week. I mean, you have a Hall of
Peter-
Fame running back, and you don't give him the ball.
Peterson
I
is,
don't see anything.
he averages about everyone thinks he's this, this Jim Brown of running backs. He only averages about 3.2 per carry. It's those breaks.
Yeah.
Every game, or once or twice a game, he breaks one for about 30, 40, 50 yards. And they keep beating it to Peterson. They stand a chance, but in reality, we're playing the Green Bay Packers.
I think it's going to be Green Bay.
Yes.
Green,
I'll have
Green
to
Bay.
agree with you.
Everything's been said. Green Bay. The final game of the week, the Monday night matchup, an NFC West exciting one between Seattle and St. Louis in St. Louis, Gateway City.
Ooh. It's a tough one to call.
Well, I might jump in here. I think it's easy.
Bradford's
third.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
They
Okay.
actually there have been rumors that they are looking for Tim Tebow. And if you hear rumors like that, then you know you're in a desperate situation. So I don't see any chance they will have to bring up some passing play. They don't have a decent receiving core either. So even if you bring up some backup quarterback from somewhere, still out of receivers. Seattle being really in the mood of winning games easily currently. They had this one loss on the road, which I actually predicted correctly.
Yeah.
But
Not
other than
undefeated.
that, they've been playing great, and I think they're probably the top team in the NFL all over. So I don't see.
Do you think the
St. Louis
Seahawks overall the best team in the NFL right now?
I do think so.
That's an arguable statement.
They're certainly in the mix.
They're
and-
certainly in the mix. Yeah, St. Louis. You're right. I totally forgot about Bradford and the Tim Tebow quest. I mean, Tim Tebow was for the Patriots, and Bill Belichick. He has a way of resurrecting the dead, and if he can't make it on a Bill Belichick resurrecting the dead Third Street quarterback, I don't see him going into St. Louis and doing anything.
Well, I actually don't think anything was true about the rumors, but when people start talking about this being a possibility,
Okay, then you know that desperate
then you really
times
know you're
call-
in desperate
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
I think what that says about this game is the most exciting thing we can say about this game is a completely unsubstantiated rumor.
Yes. Yeah.
So, once again, we're looking at an easy win for the Seattle Seahawks. Although on the road they do tend to make it closer than it should be, they won't ever be in any real danger of losing it.
No.
Seattle wins going
I
away.
think so.
Okay, well, we've covered all the games for the upcoming week, and we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to you. Thanks again for joining us here, and we will see you again next week for another week of Touchdown. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.